Welcome to the new Overlords Podcast, where we talk about video games, news, and what's fun. I'm Max, and with me, as always, is someone who is always doing her dark bidding on the internet, my co-host, Sema. Hello there, Sema.
I'm always doing her dark bidding.
Your dark bidding.
I'm doing my own dark bidding.
Your own dark bidding. What have you been bidding on recently?
Right. I play on dark eBay.
Dark eBay.
I'm doing good. How about you, Max?
I am doing well as well. I was going to ask you, but now I've got this clip, and I bet this would potentially be your answer, where that quote comes from. What's your favorite vampire movie? Because we're going to be talking about some vampire stuff today, and I was thinking about what my favorite vampire movies. What's your favorite vampire movie? Because now that might be my favorite too.
That is a good question. Wait, let me think about that, and then.
Because I would have said in the past, I would have said things like Lost Boys, but that doesn't really hold up as much these days.
Yeah, I watched Lost Boys recently, and I agree, it didn't really hold up.
Interview with a Vampire was okay for its time, but again, it's only okay. John Carpenter's Vampires was a favorite of mine. But if I got to say modern vampire movies, you can't go wrong with
What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows.
Of course.
Which is where that dark bidding quote comes from.
I know there's something that I've been watching a lot of. What is it?
Yeah.
Yes, I have watched that a lot, and I've watched the TV show more than once.
Yeah, I have not watched the TV show yet. I got to get into the TV show. And then the only other one that I bet I would like, but probably not more than What We Do in the Shadows, just a different thing, but I got to watch Renfield. I'm a Nick Cage fan. Like, as ironic as liking, being a super fan of Nick Cage is, that's what kind of fan I am. The fan of the meta weirdness of Nick Cage, and just seeing him go off the rails in a somewhat self-aware way.
Looks like it's on Prime right now.
Renfield?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, I think I will too.
You know what I will also check out is the news.
Good news, everyone!
So first up in the news, is this video game news? Every video game website has this in their headlines this week, this Superman photo from the James Gunn Superman movie that's in production. But here's my question. Why? They don't talk about every movies. They don't talk about, whatever, the Notebook 2 when it comes out with whoever. but they talk about comic book movies, superhero movies, and video game movies, certainly. I mean, video game movies, sure. I feel like they talk about it because it used to be like video games were like nerd culture. And then like this would be like a nerd culture movie too, so it would
right,
fit
like
in.
And comic books were also nerd culture.
Yeah,
so movies of comic books, right?
But I don't think that's a genre anymore.
I definitely don't think you can characterize, especially
Marvel is not nerd culture.
No, it's
Star Wars is not nerd culture. Yeah, so
it has joined the bigger zeitgeist.
It's like a holdover, but it would be hard to define. Why are you, like, if you asked the editor, why do you include these movies in your video game website? This is like GameSpot or whatever, all of the video game websites.
I would answer that all the people that are interested in Superman that are not already interested in games might look at my site.
But you could say that about anything then.
Except for this is a little bit. Yeah, okay, I get you. Like, that's why they don't post pictures of, Love Actually.
Right. Or here's how you build a cabinet out of pine. Well, people who build cabinets out of pine may be interested in video games as well. Yeah. Just from an editor perspective, from the vision of what you're trying to achieve with your site, it seems like a departure, but it's a holdover from what they used to do. So I figure I might just keep doing it. Anyway, this image generated a whole bunch of buzz all over the internet, and James Gunn had to sort of set everybody straight, because I looked at it a little bit askance as well when it came out. It's kind of a cool shot. So I get why they wanted to put it out there, because it was just sort of like a cool shot. But it doesn't, in terms of telling a story, and this is what images need to do. This is what what separates art from, from non-art, is the intent is you tell a story. And this is sometimes why you can tell AI art is not really art, because it doesn't have a story or a message. It's just pixels on a screen. So what is the story that's being told here of this Superman? His costume almost seems kind of wrinkled. There's something violent and going on in the background, and he's just got a...
It also looks like it's been, exploded on or burnt, singed.
Yeah. It's a little dusted up, and he's like slowly putting on his boots, like he doesn't care about this giant laser lasering the city metropolis behind him. But that's not what this image was actually supposed to be. So everybody can stop. Superman. Good points to ask. Sema should have picked up on this right away. Sema's he's putting his boots on.
Well, isn't that the first comment that I made? Is that he's putting his boots on?
I missed that. What this is on set, in between takes, he was just happened to be pulling his boots on. They have a digital, they probably have like a digital volume in the background. That's the still image that happened to be up there at the time, or maybe it was a moving image or whatever. The photographer happened to capture this image, and James Gunn said, "Oh, wow, that looks pretty cool. Let's put that out there. Just a little tease. We'll give him a little glimpse of behind the scenes in the middle of us filming."
And we'll get a little positive buzz about our non-Henry Superman going, and
So we can all stop reading into it. That isn't the story it's supposed to tell is, hey, here's a candid shot of us doing some work.
Right.
Yeah,
but it absolutely does not look candid.
Right. Well, I think that's kind of the why they thought it was so cool. But but that's also why it confused all of us in saying, what's the story that you're trying to tell? Anyway.
I also love, I know this is out there, but I also love how almost every iteration of Superman has that little curl. Like, I know he did in the comic, but a lot of things were in comics that didn't make it to the movie version.
True.
But this curl did.
Although,
in all of them.
Wolverine is getting his yellow suit in the next Wolverine and Deadpool Wolverine movie, which is something that people wanted from the comics that never made it into one of the movies yet. So,
well, there you go.
Fun. Let's see what makes it in from the source material into this next property that's been announced. Tomb Raider. We can only imagine. So this was just announced. It's probably going to be like 2 years. I think they're still doing like casting and stuff, but they're going to make a Tomb Raider TV series on Amazon, and it's Phoebe Waller-Bridge. So she's the star of Fleabag, but she's also a writer, producer. She's done other things. She's been in a whole bunch of stuff. She's in theory, not in theory. She's provably quite smart and talented. So that with as good, this is my comment on the internet when I posted this, with as good as the Fallout series was on Amazon, I'm all in on this. That sounds great. Make more of these. Hopefully it'll be as good as that one was, or as fun. And if we get this new generation of video game nerd content, like our debate from the beginning, produced these days with high budgets and out there for us to all have fun with, I'm happy about that. So
I'll be happy if she just wears reasonable outfits and not
that's what I was
not video game armor.
Source material. What outfits from the source material are going to make it into the show? I think Phoebe will do a good job with it. Although she said some pretty raunchy material of her own that she's produced.
Yeah, I mean,
Fleabag is
raunchy moments is one thing, but expecting women to go out into dangerous situations and fight in a bra and underpants is
that's ridiculous.
I'll be disappointed if it's that.
The Starfield update did come out today. I have not looked at it yet, but I do have enter my birthday. What? Come on, guys.
To see their ads.
Yes. Look at I don't care. Yeah, just to see the pictures. of like the inventory screen in Starfield, which is like an all ages game. What are they thinking?
I don't know.
Anyway, bunch of stuff coming to Starfield. Probably going to be playing that a bunch over the weekend, and that's probably going to be the subject of our show next week. So we'll save it for that. And we might bring on a guest that's been doing a video series, Lars. If you have not seen Lars's video series, we've got links out there. Go check that out. And he's been doing a playthrough that's pretty fun. So we'll save that. We'll talk about that. Couple other quick hits in the game buzz. We had fun with this one, didn't we? It's been out for about 36 hours, the Diablo 4 Season 4 update, and they are leaning in to...
Thank God they finally fixed Diablo.
Yes, what were you reading? They have finally revealed the good game that was always, that we knew was always there from the beginning, that we all knew, even though since launch we've been saying this is irredeemable garbage that they should never have made in the first place.
Their mistake was putting that cover over the good game. And
yes. Anyway, the subtitle of Season 4 is Loot Reborn, and that's the official title. That cracked me up. I'm there for it. I'm there for, I don't even know if I'm going to play it, but I am there for the inevitable turnaround of the community, which seems to be happening. It's only been 36 hours, but everything I've seen from fan reaction has been, oh, this is great. They finally did a good job. It's finally there. This is amazing. I'm having such a good time. Why did they do this from the beginning?
Is it people don't remember Diablo 3 and Loot 2.0, or is it like a new crop of people?
I think they're, I think they're 7 years old and they've never
So
played video games before. And they've never realized that if the game isn't every single thing you could have dreamed, that it may not actually be complete garbage.
I like how they quote NPR, which is also a monolith, by the way. Say it's good fun, wicked fun.
NPR says it's wicked fun. NPR. The bastion of video game reviews, NPR. I'm Mendelita Barker. I would like to say. This next game, just quick video game bit, caught my eye as well. It is, again, I don't even know if I'm going to play it, but it's because it's VR, Batman Arkham in VR for Quest only. I thought it was cool that they were making a game from a prime bit of IP, from a AAA perspective. This is the kind of thing I've been waiting to see more of in VR that I think could potentially drive the platform a little bit more. It's just a little cinematic thing. We have no idea what you're actually going to be doing. And it's a whole bunch of rats, kind of like a Pied Piper kind of thing. And it's only 2 minutes and a half or whatever it is. But cool VR stuff for MetaQuest 3. Can't wait. Looking forward to seeing that. That should be cool.
I wonder if there's any like movie websites that show game stuff.
Good question. Does IMDb show game stuff? If anything, I would think that they could, because don't some of the like the major, like BAFTAs does video game movie awards and video game awards. So it's an industry that's kind of tied in to sort of the movie industry to some degree. You could think that.
Yeah. Oh, there's a huge overlap. Yeah. In the people that make them happen.
That too. Right. And then the final one that caught my eye again is merely cinematic trailer, but the cinematic trailer for Assassin's Creed Shadows came out. We don't have any idea what the gameplay will be. The cinematic trailer looked really good. Just well produced, told a fun little story. 2 assassins, very different styles. One is more like a big tanky juggernaut samurai. The other one is more of like a hooded assassin ninja samurai, small and stealthy. And
are they assassinizing each other?
No, well, they seem to be at odds in the beginning of the trailer, but they're definitely working together by the sort of like the second half of the cinematic trailer.
Gotcha.
And they even have dialogue together. So they're like side by side, they're partners by the end. So I don't know for
That's a
sure.
that's earlier, right?
Yeah, so this is the beginning. So this is the one stealthy person. Their village is getting beat up and burnt down, and looks up in anger, and sees the other protagonist who that ends up partnering with by the end of so they don't tell the story of how it goes from what you could have seen when I first saw this as being some sort of like origin story, arch enemy, nemesis setup, but they're very quickly like tossed together and partners. Unless I was missing that, maybe that wasn't the same person in the beginning.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, but it looked
That
like it is. I mean, that's him.
mysterious mustache.
Or is that not? Is that like a different warlord? Maybe that's like a different warlord. Maybe I'm mistaken. No, that's him. That's his mustache, right?
That's what
Yeah.
I wondered too. Is this the first Assassin's Creed in the Pacific Rim?
Yeah, see,
Ish
he takes off his
area.
helmet. That's him. That's him. Or choose another path. So this is like saying we both can choose a different path. And then there's sort of like, all right, we're going to work together. So we'll see. Looks very pretty. Very pretty. Very pretty. All right. That is about it for the news this week. As always, thanks to all of you out there for following and listening. If you need any of the links for anything that we do, audio or video, they're all on newoverlords.com. Special thanks to everyone that hangs out with us live here on Twitch or in our Discord, where we talk about fun stuff pretty much all day, every day. And also, don't forget, if you're looking for a big family-friendly gaming community, check out Alea Iacta Est. That's the guild that we both play in for most of our group content, MMO type games. AIE-guild.org will get you to the AIE Discord, and you can get in there and join us in any of those games, especially Star Wars: The Old Republic, where we have a lot of fun going on, including tonight. I think we're going to have a little bit of a PvP night on Starforge. So check that out in AIE-guild.org Discord. Cool. All right, Sema, dark bidding.
Just leave me to do my dark bidding on the internet.
What we do in the shadows, dark bidding on the internet. And it turned out he was bidding on a table on eBay. I loved that joke the first time I saw that. That was just one of the very many things that was just so amazing about what we do in the shadows, which makes me surprised that I haven't picked up the TV show yet. Should get into that. What I have picked up, Sema, is I have picked up V Rising. We mentioned that this launched last week, right? And it's been out for about a week. It's been in early access for quite a while now. Since 2022. May of 2022 is when it first went into early access. And I played it quite a bit in early access. So our chat room, just an update, is saying PvP and ops tonight. That is crazy. That's interesting. PvP and ops. So they're maybe going to try to plow through the PvP objective. And then what do you think? If Friday, you're going to fly some GSF? Anyway, back to vampires.
So this week is the last week of the PvP season.
Oh,
so
right. They're wrapping up the PvP.
If you want to get something in, log in tonight and do some PvP.
Mm-hmm. I think I got up to like level 5 out of 25, but that's as far as I wanted to go. So it was straight on. Oh,
I messed this up totally, but I wanted to.
No, I achieved exactly neither early nor late. I did exactly as much PvP as I mean to. Malung, who runs one of our ops team, has an opening tonight on their ops team. So
that's what he meant by PvP and ops. If you want to do ops,
team will be running a bunch of PvP, and then one of our ops teams, which we have a bunch of them running. Check in on the Discord. You can jump in on those too. The Rising. So I played it during early access. I really liked it. I was interested to see it develop. And I was surprised when I played it during early access on how well-formed and complete it seemed at the time. And I haven't played it too much. I've dipped in here and there. But I was interested, now we're at the 1.0 release, to see where the game had evolved to. And I would be happy to say it's very recognizable. It doesn't seem all that different from what I played, going back a year and a half ago. And that's good because there was...
It didn't cover up the excellent game that was inside.
They did not hide the excellent game under a wrapper, which would have caused us to call it inconceivable garbage. How could they put this out? Blizzard, you're terrible people. Anyway, they did evolve some of the systems, and it was really a good evolution. They've tweaked some of the way things work. They've expanded some of the systems, and I'll go through what those are. And they added content. They certainly added content. Along the way, even as early access started, there's always been also a little bit of like a cash shop DLC model, very cosmetics based and not very onerous. Nothing that's, you look like garbage unless you're wearing a clown suit, unless you buy something from the cash shop. I'm surprised I've not even felt compelled to even look in the cash shop very much, and certainly not since release, not that since I've been playing it for the last week. And I'm surprised. We'll talk about Fallout 76 in a little bit, and I look at that cash shop every single day, but that's kind of the way to design it, so I'll get into why. And it's not a bad thing either, but anyway, let me give you a little bit of the history of where we are, because now we're at 1.0. The entire sort of story has been revealed that you are now participating in. And story time with Max. Here we go, Sema. You as a vampire, Sema, 800 years ago, before Dracula rose, even 800 years ago, all of the vampire clans and the humans, they all sort of mixed it up and were all, battling each other and, somewhat combative. There was no unified state of vampires or really of humans all that much. Dracula came along and started to collect power. Not only power in terms of unifying clans of vampires under his banner, but also physical magical power in the world, different types of physical and magical power. He rose up to be an overlord, to take over the land, and waged war against all other rebel vampire clans, of which you as a player are one. You were fighting against Dracula back in the day because he's trying to, he's a bit of a despot and trying to rule over everything and subjugate you along with everyone else. And you're not all that interested in subjugation. That was all going on 800 years ago. A couple forces rose up to try to combat him. One of the forces that rose up is something that they added in the last 2 years that I had not heard about. There was a Gloomrot expansion, and the story of Dr. Henry Blackbrew is one of the pieces that was added since then and is now part of lore. So he was a guy, he was sort of like a mad scientist. He rose up and got a bunch of people to start working for him, and they were going to combat Dracula, but he's also kind of like crazy insane and ended up just getting mired down in gross, disgusting, despicable experiments and never really even bothered to fight Dracula all that much. So everybody kind of evicted him, but he's still around. So through his experimental, Sith Lord process, he's been alive all of that time for 800 years. The other faction that rose up was the humans got their act together. They started to acquire power from the light. So this is like, holy power from the light. And the Church of Luminance was formed to fight against the darkness of Dracula. They were led by a paladin named Solaris the Immaculate. And so Solaris rose up to hoist the banner of light, fight against Dracula, and did depose Dracula and defeated Dracula, quote unquote, destroyed Dracula. They also exiled Henry Blackbrew in the process because he was just
too corrupt,
too out there. You're too screwed up, dude. We cannot have you here. So Gloomrot and that area of the map is the domain of Henry Blackbrew. There is a domain of the map that's been added since early access as well, where Dracula's castle was. And we did, even as at the time that early access started, Solaris the Immaculate was in the game and is one of the people you fight against. Now, why did you start? Why have you woken up? Now it's 800 years later. And what it turns out is Dracula had a long game. He had a plan. And so Solaris is still around as well. The light has sustained him. He's sort of disillusioned and not all that happy with where humanity is at. He actually is itching for a battle for various reasons. Dracula also sort of spread his power out into the world in terms of what is called V-blood. So the V-blood powers were dispersed into the world, and various people around the world gained the powers of this V-blood, not really knowing the source. They thought it was, again, part of like Church of Light or goodness. They deserved it or whatever. All of that power of Dracula's being sort of maintained and farmed over time in terms of this V-blood is what was going to be used to resurrect Dracula. So he's got an army, Legion of Noctum. That was his battlefield army back in the day. Now is sort of like a army in the shadows trying to gather these powers up and open portals and sort of resurrect Dracula. You have now been awoken after 800 years of sort of exile and slumber as part of the defeat of all the vampires. You've woken up. You're getting pulled into this feel of where the V-blood is, understanding that this power is out there, and learning that you should probably go and grab some of this if you want to defeat Dracula and not have him come and subjugate you, which you don't like. No, none of us like to be subjugated. So the V-blood is a core theme story element and does drive a lot of the gameplay as well, which is really cool. So that's the story. Any questions, Sema?
Can you play as the human faction?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
No, you can't. Can you play without harming any humans? No, not really. Can you play without sucking people's blood? No, not really.
It's kind of central to the theme.
Especially the V-blood. So all of the mini bosses, of which there are, I counted them up, of which there's like 40 or something. Didn't I write down the number? 57. So in early access, when it started, there was like 15. There's 57 bosses, and they're sort of in story order, and it's divided into 4 acts now. Act 1 was all we got in 2022, in May of 2022. All of those mini bosses are now available as part of the path, and it's not necessarily linear, but there are gear tiers before you can even see some of them, but then you track them down and you're getting both their V-blood powers and they unlock other things that you sort of craft. So I'm sort of skipping ahead a little bit. What's the game? If you're not familiar, the game is survival crafting with an action RPG kind of gameplay style. You're a little bit top down. You can move the camera a little bit, but you're a little bit top down. And the controls are the one thing that I think is a little difficult because it's not straight up like our ARPG top down Diablo, click to move, use your abilities. And as such, because you're also swinging the camera around and doing WASD movement and using left mouse button to use your main ability, whatever it happens to be at the time, and that changes by weapon, it makes controls really kind of unique. And in some ways that's not optimal, but I've gotten used to it. I can deal with it. And once you sort of get the muscle memory, it's just yet another game control system. I'm surprised it does not work yet. They added controller support, but it doesn't work yet on the Steam Deck, really. You can make it work on the Steam Deck, but it was keyboard and mouse first. And it being keyboard and mouse first means that I'm surprised they chose this really weird control style. But besides the control style, once you get a feel for the abilities and how they work and the fighting and sort of like dodge, shield, block, and use your abilities, the fighting is really, really good. And that's a core of what Stunlock the studio is good at.
I mean, I feel like even from my perspective, just looking at the trailers, because I haven't played this game, and I won't be playing it. What?
Let me play some trailers while we're
Okay.
watching.
I was just saying that you looking at that action combat versus like when I was playing Ark, you would do things and it'd be just kind of a mystery where it landed and why it landed where it did. But this looks like you really see what's going on.
Yep.
The effects are really kind of fun looking and yeah.
Your abilities have telegraphs, the enemy's abilities have telegraphs, and even though it's top down, you can see those telegraphs. So even when you're like all upside down and turned around, you're still able to see where your ability is intended to land, and that makes it kind of work.
Yeah.
So Stunlock as a studio has done these kind of combat games before. They did sort of almost like a battle royale or a squad battler, arena battler kind of game in the past. That was one of the strengths that they took to this game. The rest of the game is survival. It's a survival game. So you start out by, punch this tree and get 4 pieces of wood. Good job.
Yes.
Now, so wood and stone. The crafting in this game, though, is, I think, really done well. It's a very extensive set of crafting tables, and there's 20 different crafting tables. There's, a rock grinder, and then there's the sawmill. So you get the sawmill, and then there's the woodworking station. There's the basic workbench, which is where you sort of like make your basic gear, and you get a bunch of gear recipes unlocked. And then there's the alchemy table, and then there's the research table, and then there's the tailoring table and a spinning wheel when you need advanced thread for the next tier of tailoring recipes. And as you get more and more of the crafting refining stations and crafting tables, they added in a system where if you put them in a room that has a ceiling, that's one bonus that's actually enclosed in a room. And number 2 has a matching floor that you've unlocked that's dedicated to that style of crafting. So you have like the blacksmith floor for the blacksmithing room, and you put your smelter in there and you put your blacksmithing table in there. It gets a crafting bonus associated with it. So it also adds into why you're bothering to build a cool castle and have different rooms in your castle. It's a nice system of unlocks to make that stuff worthwhile and make crafting really matter. Gear can drop, but you make almost all of your own gear. So that's the other reason crafting really matters, because you're making your own gear. And your level is dependent on your gear. So if you're level 35, that means the mean of all of your gear and weapons is 35. And if you want to increase your power level so you can go and do the next thing, you go and need to find ways to make the next set of gear. So that's a key progression. The other thing is your combat abilities are a combination of the weapon you have equipped, and that's a longsword, or it's dual wielding axes, or it's the crossbow, or I think there's even guns these days. There's a spear. That's one of the tool sets, and you get like 2 abilities based on that, and then a whole set of spells and spell books. And there's like 6 disciplines of spells: chaos and undead and light and shadow and cold and whatever. Electricity, lightning. You see all this lightning flying around in the trailer. All of those spells are unlocked by V-Blood. Go and find one of these mini bosses and unlock the next tier. You unlock spell points, you get some spells. You only pick a couple of them. You only pick like 3, like 2 and an ultimate, and then you have 2 of your weapon abilities. So it's like 5 abilities. But you can change them up all the time. So that's another part of the fun of the game, is you will rarely be sticking to just one weapon and spell combination, because different bosses that you might go fight might be easier. I mean, you could try to stick to one and you may be able to do that. But different bosses will be easier to fight with different combinations of weapons and abilities, which then also makes it kind of fun to figure out, well, what am I going to do? Rock, paper, scissors. This is what this boss fights. In fact, I think I have some video of me trying one of the fights. There's some fisherman dude, and he was like, in the middle of the fight, he kept running over to you fight him on all of these piers, this sort of like round piers in the middle of a little lake. And he would run over to the side and he would cast his pole in the water and like pull out like 3 piranhas, which would then be flopping around on the ground, and they would damage you if you got near them. And then he pulled up a sea serpent that's like shooting ice blast at you. The key there that I found when I did that fight was, okay, well, I need something that's got a little bit more AoE. I'm not going to be able to complete this fight doing it the way I was trying to do it. I should go back and regroup and figure out what I'm trying to do and what I want to do to make this fight work. So that's another fun part of it. I think the real cool part of this game, the twist on it being a survival game, is they did a good job with the progression. They did a good job with abilities mattering. It's kind of arcadey, but it does have a beginning, middle, and end, which is nice. It's not, I like it both ways. I like that there's a beginning, middle, and end, but that might not be. I also like the games that sort of continue forever, right?
So I think there's a difference in, open-ended and the arcade model where it just gets harder until you fail.
Yes. But this, if you defeat all of the bosses, you're kind of done.
I know. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's nice to have it open-ended, but I don't want the arcadey thing. You use the word arcadey, so that made me think of like how Tetris is, or how all those games were. It's like you just kept playing until the game beat you.
Yeah, true. It's not like a roguelike where you just, you play and you more and more waves of enemies, higher and higher bosses. You go to like the next tier and you fight the tier 2 version of that boss, and just keep sort of going forever until it's impossible. I don't like that either, because there is a story element. I mean, you sort of look at and it's in the trailer too, so it's not really a spoiler, but the end boss, the 57th boss or whatever, is Dracula. So you're going to finally get to Dracula. You fight Black Brew, Henry Black Brew, you fight Solaris the Paladin along the way, and then you'll end up fighting Dracula. But I do like clear, here's what your objectives are, here's what you're supposed to be doing next. It's not limiting though. Like here, I went and tried this fisherman dude. He was a little too much for me and my current mix of abilities. There are different things I can go do next. I could go after another V-boss and try to get more abilities. There's also more, like, I can upgrade my gear a little bit along the way. There's sort of a research system. There's like paper that drops. And if you collect 50 pieces of paper from just various enemies, innocent townspeople, or whatever the case may be, then you can unlock one of the random things for the current tier of armor and weapons that you have, and maybe upgrade your weapons that way too. So not all of your upgrades only come from V-Blood bosses. Some of it comes from either straight up books that drop that just unlock something in your research tree, or the paper drop, 50 pieces of paper that unlock. So what am I going to do now for this? I could just go and fight. I could keep my current loadout and just go fight that fisherman dude 50 times until I beat him, and just, sort of Souls-like fight him. Or I could go grind for paper to upgrade my gear, because I only have like 2 pieces of the gear upgraded my current tier, and just get stronger and better. Or there's buffs that I could be going after. The blood itself that you can get is higher qualities, and different townspeople, different classes of townspeople that you bite change your blood type. And maybe I want to I'll go after like a hunter that's got more agility blood type that's going to help me dodge in this fight better. So I got a lot of options. It's not
if that
all
fisherman
100%
killed
linear.
you, would he then drink your blood?
No, because they're not vampires. They think that their powers are just like either like good powers from the light, or just they are just really special. They have good abilities, but they're not vampires.
Yeah.
You do fight though creatures and stuff too. Some of the V-Blood bosses are creatures, and I think some of the V-Blood bosses are like, they might be vampires. They don't drink your blood though. They don't care. They don't care about your blood. But yeah, so it's not the path of progressing the story and checking the bosses off the list. That's tier based, and you sort of like get 3 sort of like there's always like between 1 and 3 sort of next in line, and you can go after them in any order, and you could jump ahead. You could go up the one that's like plus 5 levels above you, and it'll say this is plus 5 levels above you. You can go and fight it if you want, and maybe you're going to win. But you'll also still want to kill every single boss at least once, because it unlocks cosmetics for your castle. It unlocks abilities sometimes, and it unlocks crafting tables and stuff sometimes, and recipes. So there's some things where it's like, if you want to upgrade your castle, you need iron. Well, where are you going to get iron? Well, you got to go kill the blacksmith. Well, where's the blacksmith? Oh, he's 5 levels above you. You might want to upgrade your gear. Gives you sort of that opportunity to figure out where you're going to take your path. Go next. But yeah. And then it's also building. You get to build your castle. You start out where I am right now in this little outside part with the stick walls. You maybe put down a little 2x2 or 4x4 little area. There's only set areas where you can even build a castle, and you just claim it with a castle heart sort of totem that goes down. But you start out with a small area, you put your couple basic tables down, and you grow from there. So I grew quite a bit just in the past few days. And something they added in that's fun in the past year when they were expanding the game is they allow you to make multi-story castles now, and tons of cosmetics. So here I'm showing on the screen. This was just like 15 minutes or a half hour after that previous video. I reorganized the interior of the castle. I moved a bunch of the benches indoors. I added a couple more things outdoors, like that rat. I don't know if you saw that. There's a big rat generator. And there's this, you can set up these gravestones in a graveyard. And if you put flowers on the graves, then skeletons rise out of the grave, because skeletons produce bones as a resource. So then you kill them and you get the grave dust in the bones. But I also started dividing up my castle into various areas so that I eventually will put down the floors that match. I do have one floor unlocked for like the blacksmithing floor. So that's why I've got my forge over there and the furnace. And you can see it's not an enclosed room. So you'll see me here. I have to put up a couple walls, even though I have the floor down, to like sort of like block it off as a room. But different storage unlocks, different storage types, lots of different of those reasons to build your castle, and think about the rooms and the architecture in a cool way. I like that. It's very grid based, so everything snaps to a grid. There's pros and cons to that. I kind of like that in the game, but you do get a lot more unique ability to do interesting things in games that have a non-grid based, and especially where you can overlap items to make really crazy constructions in other games. But this keeps it really clean, and all the vampire castles look like vampire
And you don't
castles.
spend a lot of time, micro moving things.
Right. They also made it so if you knock anything down, you get 100% of the resources back. So you can like change it up as much as you want, rearrange things. And then they have this cool system that they added. I haven't even tried it yet, but there's an item you can create that will basically lift your entire castle and everything you've built and put it in a new location on the map. Because if you look at the mini map in the upper right here, the blue outline is the building area I have in this spot that I've picked out. I could go to another spot in maybe like a more advanced area of the map later and take my whole castle and drop it there. So that's pretty cool. I like that. I really like that. So it's fun. Yeah. So my summary of this is, it is a fun game. It's a good addition to the survival genre. There is a whole PvP element to it if you want. That's not really the point. I don't think that's really the point of the game, but you can make it sort of like alliance versus alliance, clan versus clan. You create these golems whose sole purpose is to go to your PvP enemies' castles and knock down their walls. They have like limited lifespan duration and they're really expensive to create. But then you can go like raid their bases and take their stuff. There are special items that you get along the way that you'll want to, that you could set up a special server where there's only one of the special items, the artifacts. So if you want to win and kill Dracula, you'll need to like go assault the other base and steal their artifact because there's only one of them on the server, that kind of thing. So there's a whole relatively complete PvP system associated with it as well. I'm not typically into that, so it's not a big deal to me, but it seems well done. And I've seen videos and streamers doing it and having fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting to me when a game is willing to put so much effort into basically having two games in their game.
Right. The PvP, exactly. You need
and
to
appealing to
design.
people who have, very different, playtime goals.
Right. People wonder why Overwatch never really got the PvE modes that it was supposed to get. It's because that's hard. It's hard to develop a really interesting PvP-centric game and then add a PvE mode to it, or vice versa. And
Yeah,
that's why a lot of the
it is.
MMOs, who are PvE games at their heart, are criticized for their PvP because it's
It's
really
an
hard to
afterthought.
do.
Yeah.
And it's
It is.
impossible to balance, then like you're trying to balance for PvP, and then the PvE people are going, what did you do? You just broke our ops team. You can't do our thing anymore. Yeah, that's tough.
And I think that's part of why Blizzard is doing sort of games within games so much, is because when you do something like WoW Remix, which is its own instance, you don't have to balance it.
Right. Good point. Just take it out, take it separate. That's how some of the PvP systems, the PvP game works in other MMOs too. It's almost like an arena, and the gear is completely separate. You get dumped into the arena, like Guild Wars. I think Guild Wars does it, where you get dumped into the arena, you can pick any gear you want, and it's just a PvP mode and go to town.
Right.
The one thing I didn't mention that I do like, because I've ranted about day-night cycles in games before, and if it's done poorly, where it just makes it hard to, it's nighttime, so you can't see anymore. Isn't it great? 50% of the time, our game looks like complete garbage. It's just monochrome. You can't see. You can't do anything. Might as well just stop playing for 10 minutes. That's my biggest pet peeve in day-night implementations. This one does an awesome thing with day-night. You're a vampire, so you can't go out in the daylight without burning up. You have like a couple seconds, and you'll hear the screen starts to flash, and you hear the noise
of your skin crisping up.
Yes, and you'll die as it ramps up. So I'd say you've got about 3 seconds as it ramps up. Then you start taking significant damage. You got about 3 more seconds before you're dead. So it's still 6 seconds. That's a significant amount of time. But if you're like running from shadow to shadow, it's not that long.
Yes, that's true. I was in my mind. I was kind of lining it up with like an exhaustion zone. Like you go out there and then the zone is just hurting you. But takes a long time to. Compared to that, it takes a long time to kill you.
Yeah. The way they implement shadows, so all the trees and mountains and everything cast shadows, and clouds are going by overhead casting shadows. If you're in the shadows, you don't burn up. So it's not that you can't go out at all during the day. It's that you can't go out in the direct sunlight, which then is really cool. So you can go out, and the daytime only makes up about a third of the day night cycle. You can sort of see it on the clock in the upper right of the screen there. Uh, you can still sort of jump from shadow to shadow. So you can decide what you want to do. If you want to go do a full-blown boss battle, but just try to stick to the shadows in each of the little mini bosses kind of has like a little building or arena or island that you're fighting them on. Some of them are out in the open and they just walk the paths. But if you want to try to fight them in the daytime and just sort of like leap from shadow to shadow, feel free, go ahead. And sometimes you get stuck doing that because you started fighting them and you didn't realize it was close to morning and you're halfway through the fight. And now it's like, you're finishing up the fight in the daylight. It's kind of a pain, but it works really well and it makes daytime matter. It makes nighttime matter. And my favorite thing about it is it makes me wish for the night. It's the first game where I've wished for the night because the night looks really good. You're strong at night. It's done great. They've done a good job with that. It's one of the few games where I hope for the night. I wish for the night because I am a creature of the night, Sema. That's when I do my dark bidding. So yeah, fun. I'll definitely keep playing it to try to get at least through a significant number, if not finish all of the bosses completely. It does end up starting to feel a little Souls-like by the end. So I'm
And
not,
by that you mean you have to learn the boss's ins and outs and
yeah,
choreograph your
yeah, and like rock paper scissors, change up your abilities and your weapons all the time. Learn a new weapon set, learn a new set of spells, and learn the boss fight, when to dodge, when to block, over and over and over again. That gets a little annoying to me from time to time, but the castle's really cool. The abilities look really cool. I got pretty far through it during early access. I'll get at least that far. I don't think I killed Solaris. That's the only boss I didn't kill in the first round. So I'll try to get through at least killing Solaris, at least finished Act 1 of 4, and then sort of I want to go see Gloomrot and see what that looks like. Super cool. All right, enough of V Rising. As I said, next week I'll probably be chatting all about Starfield. But
So I have just a general overall question of the V survival games that you've played. How do you compare this to Valheim? Like, would you say it's a better game than Valheim, just different,
I would
or
say it's about on par with Valheim in
because
my
Valheim?
subjective view.
Yeah, yeah, because for survival games in general, from my perspective, Valheim was the first one you really got into that I
Yeah,
heard a lot about, and then this one came, but I feel like you put more hours into Valheim.
I probably did because this was, I mean, Valheim, I guess, technically been in early access quite a bit as well. But Valheim, I think, has a little bit more ability to flex into being creative. And
Is it also grid-based in the building?
yeah, for the most part, but a little bit more creative in building as well. But it's only more creative because it's a little bit different building types and a little bit it's less it's less resolution. It's more sort of like pixely than this game, and you do terrain manipulation in Valheim, like raising and lowering the terrain. So there was more ability in Valheim to say, well, I'm going to like flatten this mountain, or I wanted to like build up this mountain and, do interesting things. And you can build a lot more. You're not building one castle in Valheim. Valheim, you could build all over the place. You could build all over the whole map. There's fewer bosses in Valheim. So it's more focused around the limited number of, sort of major bosses. And that's, I think, a strength of this 57 bosses to just sort of like keep challenging yourself and keep progressing and keep going forward. It's definitely deeper from that perspective. So this one has a little bit of leg up on that. Where both of those sort of fall short, I think, is in the long game, is in the place to live, where a game like Ark is got a leg up as far as that goes. Ark is a much longer tail, I feel, in what you might sort of like build and do and live and be able to like play as a main game for long periods of time. That sort of little bit different as far as that goes. I think with like Valheim and V Rising, you might sort of play through them and finish them, and then maybe you'll play again. I know it's not really their intent, and maybe they'll continue to add content and new zones and maps to explore in V Rising because you're unlocking so many decorations and you're building out your castles. Some people are like making these super elaborate castles that are
Right. And then you
it's-
want having made that castle to have meaning.
right, right, and you don't want to just like scrap it and start over, with stick walls again.
Or just log in to like walk around in it.
Yeah.
You want the game to go on.
Fallout 76, I'm playing a lot right now, and that I think has a much longer tail. Well, and I'll explain some of what I'm doing in Fallout 76. You'll get the picture of that, but with like events and game, sort of Game Pass systems and much more multiplayer. I feel like both V Rising and Valheim are much more sort of single player. You can play them multiplayer, but they're more like co-op. Maybe if you're getting into the PvP in V Rising, it'll feel more multiplayer, but there's definitely smaller server. You're going to killing the bosses on your own pretty much. You could do them as a group. Maybe people do it as a group. We did some group kills in Valheim as well, but those feel much more like single player games to me. Whereas Fallout 76, no matter what I'm doing, it's still a small server, but I'm always in a group, always doing multiplayer with pickup groups constantly in Fallout 76, which surprises me.
Right.
All right. Enough for me on that. I will get into Fallout 76 in a second, but what have you been doing that's multiplayer? Sema, playing with
Oh
other
my
people.
gosh.
Or do you play MMOs as a single player game?
No, I play with other people, but I do spend some time soloing it as well. And lately I've been doing still a lot of archaeology, which is a solo endeavor in WoW Cataclysm.
Yep.
Um,
As professions tend to be. Professions aren't a group activity, really.
right. And even though like in survival games we've done some collaborating on building, especially like you just showed it in the Rising is like crafting. It's kind of a do-it-yourself kind of thing. So yeah, I've been spending too much time with archaeology, but I say I'm not going to do it anymore, and then I get sucked back in.
Okay. Yeah. So you haven't rage quit it completely yet?
No.
Yeah.
I did start today. I went back to I have a shaman that I've been leveling, and I slowly and little bits and pieces. I started doing that today, and playing an enhancement shaman, and that's actually really fun. And I leveled up like 5 levels today before I even really knew it. So that's like the faster leveling in Cataclysm that everyone talks about. And I got like 2 new abilities that just make so much difference. Like now instead of I used to have to do like I'd run up to a mob, do an ability, and then white damage till something comes off of cooldown. Now I can just go boom, 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 they're dead. So that's a pretty fun way to play. So I like that. And that character, I did a little bit of archaeology, but when you can't fly because you're too low level, that's really onerous for
Oh, to do
archaeology.
archaeology without flying? Yeah, that would drive me crazy.
But and I only did archaeology to test, right? Because what I wanted to know is when Cataclysm actually drops, because we're still in pre-patch, if archaeology is going to give XP. So I logged into this low-level character, and I went and did some archaeology, and I didn't get any XP. So I said, okay, well, I won't. I mean, that's good to know. That's my test. Today I was out there and I just did some archaeology just for the heck of it, and I did get XP. I'm like,
Okay.
what? And so I started herbing. I was getting XP from herbing too. Which wasn't the case on Monday. So it's weird because Blizzard has done some things that they wanted to do. We just thought because herbing didn't give XP, in that it wasn't going to, that they had decided that herbing and mining shouldn't give XP like it did in original Cataclysm. But apparently, no, it was not intended, and now they put it in. But that kind of highlights one thing that's just really weird about this whole pre-patch thing with Blizzard and Cataclysm is there's been no patch notes, no nothing, no, they didn't say, "Oh,
Yeah.
we meant for that to work and now it does," or anything. It's just,
What are they doing?
yeah, what are they doing? And then, like, people, I guess I don't really remember. I should remember, but I don't really remember back in the day. But there were like elemental attacks and stuff, invasions for people to like participate in the pre-patch back in the day. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing. This pre-patch is just all the new abilities and the new map and all that stuff. It's not no events going on, nothing like that.
Weird.
I know. I have a little tiny voice in my head that says, "You know what? Maybe they're planning to do something, that they just haven't told us, and that some of the issues they've been having with weird bugs and stuff, like there's weird bugs. Like when I leveled today, it said, "You just leveled to level 0."
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was clearly just a cosmetic error, but just little things like that. Like, why would that even be different than it was before
Right.
pre-patch?
Right.
So maybe they're like making changes that are gonna, I don't know. We'll see. But I'll know soon because the 20th is when Cataclysm drops for real.
Okay. Well, that's 5 days.
And I kind of went
Wow.
around today and collected a bunch of herbs and bought some stuff so that I have enough ink. I'll have enough ink
Oh,
because I'm an
ink.
inscriptionist to do my daily discovery for 5 or 10 days after Cataclysm drops because I don't want to have to go back to Northrend to find herbs.
Right.
But I haven't
Oh,
finished discovering all my inscription recipes. So
interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
I remember all that.
yes,
I
yes,
I
crafting.
took one of my alts, I think it might have been Kata. One of my alts leveled the 5 levels or whatever it was at the time entirely through herbing.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yes, you can do that. I
yeah.
mean, it gets really
I mean, it was
slow
over
in the
time. It was, it was a long
yeah,
time.
yeah.
So,
I mean, I've done that too, leveled characters with pet battles.
yeah, right.
I mean, not that you can do that in Cataclysm. Well, maybe. Maybe that's what they're trying to just for me, they're gonna have pet battles in Cataclysm.
Yeah.
No,
Who
they're
knows?
not. I'm just
Nobody knows.
yeah,
It's a mystery.
nobody knows. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing in WoW mostly.
And I know you
And
also been playing.
yeah, Star Wars: The Old Republic, which since we have the Galactic Seasons going on and since I'm doing it on 2 different servers, um, that's kept me busy in that game as well. And then we have our 2 nights, like our Ops night, which is tomorrow night, and you're showing on the screen now,
Mhm.
um, which we oftentimes do stream that, and you're invited, everyone's invited to come and watch. Not exactly to learn the right way to do these fights.
It's a way.
It's a way.
It's
It's a way
our
to do
right
these.
way.
Yeah,
We call
yeah,
it textbook. Who
right.
wrote that textbook? And is that textbook actually accurate? That's for us to decide.
I mean, the textbook kind of writes itself.
We said one of our most famous textbook chapters is the Skyva fight. And part of the boss fight is okay, so she's going to get down to about 5 or 7%. And at this point, everyone dies except one tank. And
Yes, we call it the tanks
why?
only phase.
We don't know. What abilities is she using that causes that? Nobody knows. It's unknowable. And then the tank finishes the fight and you win. Textbook. Yeah, that's awesome. I think last week we killed Nightmare Nephra because we get some of the best gear in the game off of that. A few of us still want to finish our complete 344 sets. I did get my 6th of 7th piece, which means I can probably just spend the tokens to get the
Yeah,
7th piece, which is an incredible amount of tokens.
right.
But we do Nephra, but I think last week we did the uprisings, didn't we? Wasn't that? Yeah.
Yes, we split up and did uprisings, which was
Yeah, here we are. We're in uprisings, which is
we
sort
don't
of like
normally.
smaller, almost like dungeon content. It was a special
Yeah,
version of dungeon flashpoint kind of
it's
content that they
it's
added to the
meant to
game.
be, fast paced and mostly trash.
Yeah, run and gun, waves of mobs, more like a run and gun battle. They you could think of. I think they achieved what they were going for. It's
Hmm.
not everybody's favorite content. People like sort of like the bigger boss battle kind of content.
But that's kind of what's cool about Galactic Seasons is while we're not normally Uprisings players, we did Uprisings this week
Hmm.
because it's in the season.
Right. Yeah, it forces us, not forces, it encourages you
Right.
to,
It gives you an incentive.
reminds you that there's these other part of the games that you might not have done for a while, and hey, isn't that fun? And the answer typically is, yeah, that's fun. Or
Yeah.
no, that's not that fun, but you don't have to do every single one. You have to do like 7 out of 10 or 4 out of 10 or none because you don't care about the cosmetics that you're getting out of the season or whatever. And it's not,
Right.
you're
And
not
it
missing out
same
on
comes up
much.
when they have Star Fortresses, which is a piece of content associated with a particular X pack.
Hmm.
And also, what's the thing on Zakul? The Eternal Champion.
Yes. The 10 rounds of the Eternal Championship.
Yeah. And those things are something I haven't done the Eternal Champion since it was current, but I mean, I might do that sometimes. I'm bringing it up as opposed to like you can also do
Yeah.
Galactic Starfighter and PvP, which I'm probably Galactic Seasons is not enough to make me want to do those things,
Right.
but it's enough to make me want to go back and do other PvE stuff that I don't normally touch.
Yeah. I'll do an Eternal Championship this week because it came up again as an
Yeah.
example. The lack of like a battle pass challenge mode in V Rising, I wonder if they're going to
Yeah.
add it in because
I'm
it is
I was
driving my behavior in the 2 other games, Star Wars:
yeah,
The Old
I
Republic being
thought
one of
about
them.
that, but then I thought maybe it would dilute what's special about V Rising. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. They did have, I didn't play it, so I don't know much about it, but they did have a holiday event. They had like a Halloween event. So I don't know exactly what that was. It'll be interesting to see if they do more like holiday events like that. Um, so Fallout 76 is getting a little out of control with their events right now. I'll talk about that in a second. Star Wars is adding an event, which will be interesting. Events is one way to do it, and then they sort of like the challenge lists, challenge checklists, battle pass kind of things. I think are a fun if they're well formed, and you don't. It's not not a bunch of FOMO. It's a interesting way to play a game and be encouraged to try more parts of the game and that kind of thing. I do tend to like them when they're well done.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah,
But
Fallout
it's
76.
kind of related. Sorry, it's kind of related to what you said earlier. Like you like having a roadmap of where to go next.
Yeah,
I kind of like that about the seasons and Conquest. Both those systems is it gives me sort of a little, not it's not a defined roadmap, but I can look at it and go, okay, I'm going to go do this now.
right, right, exactly. And it does sort of encourage it allows you to sort of shut your brain off a little bit more. You don't have to like make your own fun. Hey,
Right.
I want to go play XYZ thing. Well, what am I going to do? I don't know. What was I doing? Okay.
Right.
Let's figure out something to do. It allows you to just turn your brain off and say, oh, here's a checklist of things I'm going to go do. That's fun. I'm going to go do that. I've been doing checklists of things in Fallout lately, and that's kind of crazy the amount of checklists of things they're giving you. So they had the alien event going on for 2 weeks. So you do the alien event and fight all the aliens one at the top of the hour, once an hour at the top of the hour. Overlapping with that last week, they started the spring cleaning event. So alien event was going on, the spring cleaning event, which is only 2 weeks. Here's a list of 10 things to do the first week and 10 things to do the second week, and you unlock cosmetics if you do them all. On top of that, there's still the season going on. So there's dailies, there's like 10 things to do each day and 10 things to do each week that are the dailies and weeklies for the season, and then there's 100 ranks of the season. And on top of that, inside of like the expedition, there's another system that I haven't even gotten to yet, which is what they call like stamps and like a whole progression of tiers of completing your expedition stamps within the expeditions. I don't even know what that is yet. I can't get to it because I did the whole alien thing, and I did that exhaustively because I wanted every single thing out of the alien. Well, I actually only wanted one thing, and I never got it until I got everything else.
Yeah.
But now the alien thing finished up, and I'm like, okay, well, that's done. The spring cleaning is actually pretty quick. I got that done in like an hour the week 2, so I'm completely done with the spring cleaning. But they started a new event for 2 weeks starting today. It's the Mothman event. Every hour, top of the hour, Mothman, almost like the alien thing, very similar to the alien thing, with 20 different cosmetic plans that you can get. I don't care about these as much. There's no like weapon that you can get that's driving my behavior. But it kind of made me crazy because now it's still like 3 or 4 lists of things going on. And like, what's up with that? So they're kind of off the rails with events right now. And I don't know if this is just a weird time of the year where a couple things happen to overlap, or if this is typical of Fallout 76. So I'm going to have to find that out because I'm still not done with like the main story missions and a bunch of side story stuff that I wanted to do.
That gave me anxiety back when I was playing a little bit of Lotro too. It's like you'd log into Lotro and there'd be like 6 events, 6 festivals going on, and you're like, but what quest am I supposed to do?
Right. You know, I got to get the ring to Mordor. Nope. You got to dance around the maypole today and chase those chickens. But the one ring, I gotta. You're gonna miss out on the Bilbo's birthday party.
Yeah.
There's one thing I did clip. I got to turn on the volume for this. I told you, I think last week, there's a character that's a robot that's a sort part of the story mission, and her name is Rose, and she sends you off to do other things and sort of like unite a couple factions and start you on a path. Her name is Rose. I'm at some point in the story where she like radios me, and it's about every time or every other time I log in, she radios back to me just to sort of like, it's the check-in, but it's the same thing every time. But I do love the voice drop in that her voice lines for this, and I'll play it for you. You'll see why. Voice acting is superb. I don't know what I need to do to progress so she's not like voice, calling in every single time. I probably just need to progress the story more. But here, we'll listen to what she says. Let her radio in to me.
I'll be straight with you. I think we're past the point where I just want to use you to further my own goals. I may be starting to like you. Now, I don't want you thinking your pal Rose is going soft on you, so let me just say this. If you ever get it in your head to screw me over, I will gut you with this here saw and string your entrails up like Christmas tinsel. Nothing personal.
That's it. The voice acting, the voice actor, she does such a great job with that. The intonation and everything is just I love that. So that's part of the fun. There's a lot of that good Bethesda character stuff going on. And I want to get back to a bunch of that mission stuff, but I can't because I got to, like, once an hour, the Mothman cultists are calling me up, and I got to go light the pyres and fill the blood troughs and summon the Mothman and get blessed by the holy Mothman, the wise Mothman, not the pretenders. You have to kill the pretender cultists, whatever. But yeah, having a lot of fun still with Fallout 76. And that kind of checklist thing. Got all the checklists in Fallout 76. Got checklists in Star Wars: The Old Republic. I've got the main checklist, which is kind of nice right now in V Rising, because it's the main checklist, and I get to do that for a while and not get distracted by 50 million holidays and events.
Right.
So maybe down the road, if they do add that kind of stuff, it'll be nice to have gotten through the main checklist, and then that'll be a reason to come back into it. Do they have holidays in V Rising? Well, a little bit. There was like a maypole that you could get, but it like only showed up at certain times of the year. It wasn't a lot though. Arc has holidays. We have we turn on the holidays in Arc, and I do log into Arc every once in a while, but I've got my own personal checklist. There's not like a battle pass for Arc that you have to worry about, but there are events that'll come up that you might want to do and grind. But I'm working on my wyverns, my wyvern breeding still. Yeah. So fun stuff all around. But I got to get back to Starfield this week. You
do.
I did not get through all of my new game pluses. I'll probably still be plowing through new game pluses, but get to try out some of the new stuff along the way. And it's mostly updates to game systems and patchy kind of things. They haven't added the expansion that's coming in the fall. I would like to be through all of my new game plus playthroughs. I want to do 12 of them. Just sort of racing through. You sort of like race through the main progression path and promote yourself in the universe in various ways. But I got to do that like 10 or 11 or 12 times to get everything I want done. And then I'll be ready for the expansion stuff in the fall too. But it'll be fun to see the additions, like the shipbuilding additions that are in this week, and see how that's going. We'll talk about that more next week. Anything else for this week, Sema?
Nope. That's it.
I think that's it for today. All the feed and subscribe links for everything are on newoverlords.com, of course, and our videos up on YouTube/newoverlords. Make sure you get in there and subscribe and like in all those places. That helps us out. Please come chat with us in our Discord at newoverlords.com/Discord. And you can also follow on all the social networks, and we'll keep you up to date there too. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.